Missing tonight, Miss Elba. She has a work commitment, so she will not be here this evening. Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Yes. Mrs. Gator?
Here.
Mrs. Moomin?
Here.
Mr. Freeman?
Here.
Ms. Mitchell?
Here. If we can all stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. At this time, I need a motion to approve item 1.3, tonight's agenda for December 11th. It's our regular board meeting.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the agenda December 11, 2019, regular board meeting.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second.
It's been moved and properly second. Is there any discussion about tonight's agenda?
Yes, there's one small typo on item 2.3. It says resolution, but it should just say amendment.
Yep.
You said 2.3?
Yes.
2.3, state's resolution.
Okay, thank you, sir. Please note that item 2.3, we are changing resolution to amendment. Are there any other changes? If none, with that change for item 2.3, can we call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin?
Yes.
Mrs. Gator?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes. Motion passes 4-0. At this time, we need a motion on the floor for item 1.4. It's approval of the minutes for September 4th, our work session meeting, September 18th, our regular meeting, and September 30th, a special meeting.
Madam Chair, I move 1.4, approval of minutes. I'm looking for approval for the minutes for September 4th, 2019, work session meeting, September 18th, 2019, regular meeting, and September 30th, 2019, special meeting.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second.
Were there any discussion on these minutes?
None from me, Madam Chair.
If none, can we please call the roll?
Mrs. Gator?
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes. Motion passes 4-0. We are at item 1.5, where we have public participation. At this time, we give all of our guests an opportunity to come to the podium and speak for 3 minutes if you have completed a public participation card and given it to our treasurer, Dr. Rock. Dr. Rock, do we have any cards for tonight?
Yes. Francine?
Wahomie.
Once you come down, can you please state your name and address?
Francine Wahome, 19606 Harvard Avenue, Warrensville Heights, Ohio.
Thank you so
I'm
much.
calling to ask, does the school board have a procedure for international students to attend? I'm asking that question because I have host students from foreign countries when my daughter was in private school. And I took my family to Kenya to visit nieces and nephews, aunts and uncles and everybody. And a couple of my nieces would like to come to United States. I have one niece who's going to Notre Dame, where I attended and am on the board. And I have 2 nieces that want to come to high school. Notre Dame will sponsor them when they go to college. So I'd like to know, do I make an appointment for the procedure for bringing them here?
So I can answer that. We do not currently have a policy addressing international students. That is something that we will, as a team and board, come back with very soon. I will convene our committee, and hopefully by next month we will have something for you.
Okay, and I'm also working on a workshop with children in a safe environment with teachers, family, and educators in CMSD, where my daughter is doing, and she's doing a movie on it. And I'd like to know what would be the procedure for the board to get an understanding of what's happening and would they like to participate in it also?
Can you forward me all the information and I'll share it with the board?
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next card is Mrs. Underwood.
Hello, my name is Mrs. Underwood, and I live on Emory Road, Warrensville Heights. I want to keep the rah-rah going on Mr. Jolly and bring some light to Mr. Freeman tonight because they have been very instrumental in getting the new school. Progress is just through the roof. I was over there at Westwood today, and Vaughn is basically saying his school is perfect. They're just constantly going up. So I know under your watch, I've been here for 36 years plus, and I've never seen the school district, this well off. And as a result of that, I am seeing new schools, productivity, productivity in our grades, which has resulted in new attitudes and academic achievement. Some of these kids are actually looking forward to coming to school. We have some things to look for. So I know Ms. Mitchell likes to say character is doing the right thing when people are watching it. I would also like to say character is doing the right thing when people are watching, especially our students. Because when we're solving conflict or whatever it is we're doing, they're watching us and they're gonna, copy off of us. So we really need people that are focused on what they are doing and do the best you can at that. You shouldn't have any other time for anything else. And I wish everybody a happy new year. May it be prosperous, healthy, and whatever you want. And I'm looking forward to Mr. Roberts. And Mr. Reynolds, I'm looking forward to spending the money. Okay? All right.
Ms. Underwood, if you would just hold tight for 1 minute.
Okay.
Just for everyone's edification, our board works as one board. There's 5 members.
Okay.
And we work together. So there's times that you may see 1 or 2 or 3 of us at different events, but we are working one board, 5 people, 1 voice. So
I
there's
understand that.
not any one member up here that's doing, not to take anything away from Ray,
Okay.
but there's
For
not
Mr.
any.
Jolly.
Well, Mr. Jolly is our superintendent.
I understand
So
that,
he'll
but he
get all the
still works with
accolades
the board.
he can get. But all of us
Okay.
work together, just so everybody understands, this isn't one person getting all the rah-rahs. This is all 5 of us getting the rah-rahs for the work that we're doing. And I think Mr. Freeman would validate that as well.
I do.
So I just want to share that with everybody.
Okay.
Okay, thank
All
you
right.
so much, though,
You
for
are so
everything
welcome.
that you said, because
You are so welcome.
we can't
You're doing
do
a great
this
job also,
without
okay? Everybody.
community members like
Okay?
yourself.
Just keep up the good work, everyone.
Thanks, Ms. Underwood.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Your intentions are good.
All right, was that it, Dr. Rock?
Yes, that
Thank you,
completes the
sir.
section.
Thank you, everyone that came to speak. We're at item 1.6. We have a team that's going to present Safe Schools. And as we ask per the norm, your name, and for the district employees, the department that you work in, and for our guests, if you can share. Be careful of the chairs because they will eat you.
Good evening, school board, superintendent, and community members. My name is Tasha Pettigrew. I work in the Human Resources Department here for the Warrensville High City School District, and I'm also the school representative for the Safe Route to School initiative. The Safe Route to School plan is a grant-funded program with the goals to provide safer routes to school and provide resources for educational programming. The Safe Route to School Committee is a joint partnership between the Tri-Communities, Warrensville High City School District, and various community partners. The Safe Route to School Committee is now in our final phase to submit our Safe Route to School proposal to request funding to the Ohio Department of Transportation. Our presentation today will provide you with a brief synopsis of the plan, which will consist of data collection from the residents, students, and community stakeholders. We look forward to receiving your feedback and support of this great initiative. I will now introduce to you Ms. Kate Manning from NOACA, and she is the transportation planner. Thank you, and please enjoy our presentation.
Thank you, Tasha. And thank you, Superintendent and School Board, for having us again to, basically, we're coming to the end of this planning process, and we wanted to give you an update on how the plan has evolved and some data, and then ask for your support in submitting it to the Ohio Department of Transportation in order to access funding through the Safe Routes to School program. So I don't know how to click this because I don't have a click.
Oh, sorry. Here it is right here.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Okay, so, Safe Routes to School, for of some of you that may not be familiar with it, is a state, national, international, and local program that focuses on barriers and improvements to walking and biking for students in grades K through 8, within 2 miles of any school. So the plan that has been developed and the program itself focuses on the 5 safety components, or 5 E's of safety, which are education, encouragement, enforcement, engineering, and evaluation. The school travel plan process is the framework by which communities can access state funding that supports Safe Routes to School programs throughout the state. This documents the community's intentions related to active transportation, to making it safer for kids to walk and bike to school. And an STP is a requirement for those funding requests. So the funding request opens in January, and we are hoping to have this plan ready and approved by ODOT in order to have, if you are willing to access those funds or write applications, you will be able to do so. So infrastructure funding is between $200,000 and $400,000 annually per application, and non-infrastructure funding, which is the education, encouragement, enforcement type of programs, would be up to $15,000 for a school district of your size. The period opens in January, so that's why we're here asking for your support. Just a brief 3 key items that were used to develop this plan. Data that was collected was: where are kids coming from? What types of travel modes are they actually using to get to and from school? And then why are they using those modes? And also looking at the conditions of the community to see what kind of infrastructure opportunities or improvements need to be made. So a team was developed. This has been a year-long process. It started in the early part of 2019. There are multiple members of this team from the community, and not just from the school districts, but also from all 3 jurisdictions that the school district serves. The public health is represented in a number of ways: the library, the YMCA, various businesses, and other community members. Vision statement was developed, and then we identified some tasks that needed to be done in order to complete the school travel plan. We did walk audits and parent surveys. We looked at current student travel information and barriers and gaps that came in from those data collection opportunities. And then the team went to experts and also talked about recommended solutions or countermeasures to help improve those routes to and from school, for both infrastructure, which is the engineering component, and then non-infrastructure, with the rest of those E's. Student travel tallies and parent surveys were conducted through the schools. Thank you, Tasha, for doing that. She coordinated both the travel surveys or the travel tallies and the parent surveys. The tallies were a snapshot of 3 days of asking students how they got to and from school in their classroom, and just tallying those up and having that data available. And then parent surveys asked about parent attitudes related to walking and biking, and how they feel about their typical student travel throughout the day. There were 177 responses to that parent survey, which is pretty good considering we were doing this on a very short timeline. The travel tally data, I'm not going to go over all this, but just know at the bottom, that last morning and afternoon trip comparisons, of the 1,500, almost 1,600 number of trips that were documented, Under 10% were walkers, only about 1% were cyclists. School bus, students get to school via bus, a little over half of the students do it that way, but there are a number of family vehicle, drop off and pick up, kids that are dropped off and picked up via family vehicle. And with your new school facility coming online next year, and that new school was one of the 2 schools we did the travel plan for in order to precipitate conditions where you may have congestion and other issues, and try to come up with some solutions that will help relieve those issues as you may see them, in the near future. The parent survey showed pretty much the same thing. Most of your students are coming to school by bus. The next number is family vehicles, but you do have a significant number of walkers that do come to school, to and from school, and you may see that rise or fall at the new school based on their locations, which we will get to in a minute. Parent survey data, just know that the top 3 issues related that parents said that they would not let their children walk to or from school were distance, which is always the number 1 thing because we don't want our kids going too far, and sometimes that is just too much for a student. But the number 2 one was violence or crime, as well as weather and climate, and safety at intersections and crossings, which the Safe Routes to School program can help affect. Speed and traffic along the route was another condition that was high, as well as the amount of traffic along certain routes that students would have to walk. Another question that was asked was what parents of children who already walk to school, to and from school, are concerned about. So these are kids that already walk to and from school. What do their parents say is an issue? Of course, distance was an issue. Weather and climate is an issue that we can't deal with, but some of the other ones were, again, violence and crime, crossing guards and the need for more crossing guards, and then safety at intersections and crossings as well. So there's some overlap in both of those questions. Parents' opinions, this can be both. This is pretty neutral. They don't feel that their school encourages or discourages walking to and from school, and that's not a good or a bad thing. A good thing, though, is that parents do feel that walking and biking is healthy for their students. So getting that physical activity in the morning is good for kids, and it's also good for their behavior at school, as well as their ability to learn and their cognitive abilities throughout the day. Some other concerns from stakeholders when we did stakeholder interviews were obviously speeding was one of the number 1 issues. A disregard for those crossing guards, areas, again, with crime or the perception of crime, and distracted driving. Those were really the highlights of those stakeholder recommended interviews, and some issues there. So some of the non-infrastructure recommendations that came out of our collective team were in education, doing bike education, both at the elementary and the high school level and the middle school level. Encouragement programs, participating in walk and bike to school day events, and maybe even implementing walking school buses, which are can be adult-led or adult-monitored student populations walking to and from school. Enforcement, which is supporting those crossing guard programs with safety equipment. It will not pay, any funding will not pay for crossing guards themselves, but you can get resources for those crossing guards to do their job better. And then evaluation, just keeping up and participating in coalitions and information that can help you guys make decisions and also access other funding streams as needed. So, the infrastructure recommendations are really focused around the middle school and the new elementary school. This heat map just shows where elementary school students are most highly concentrated with relation to that new elementary school. So the infrastructure recommendations focus around those populations, so to speak, where those students would most likely be walking and biking. If you look at we'll look at this is the whole of your school district. If you see, this is the middle school and this is the elementary school, you'll see some recommendations that were in the draft plan that was sent to you, that were outlined more specifically and in more detail about what we would like to see at those intersections or along those corridors. In particular, here's some close-ups of spot recommendations, which are recommendations, for example, at intersections to improve them, maybe through ADA ramps, high visibility crosswalks, that type of thing, or corridor improvements that could help access not only the schools, but other resources that students may be accessing. So these are, and just to let you know, the green dots are student locations. Proximity mapping and crash data mapping were also done during the data collection process, and that helped us evaluate as to where those concentrations of students are and how they would be getting to school. And then finally, this is a close-up of the new school location and some spot recommendations for crossings in particular along Clarkwood. And so, these are just some, there's more detail obviously in the plan. We're just giving you a general overview, but letting you know that there was really a lot of input put into this plan and a lot of expert advice given not only from our consultant tool design group, but from the community population in telling us where some of the issues were that they felt needed to be addressed. So our next steps really are incorporating any comments that you may have into this final draft, finalizing those countermeasures and the mapping that has already happened, and then getting endorsements from the community. Basically, a letter of support from the school board would be welcome in order for us to attach that to the plan to submit to ODOT by the end of the year. So that is our presentation. And these are the folks that can help you out if you have any other questions, or if anyone in the audience has questions. I was trying to be respectful of time. Thank you very much for your listening pleasure.
Board, were there any questions for Ms. Manning?
I did have one, Kate.
Yeah.
As far as the non-infrastructure recommendations, both of these are all in the same package, correct? Like when you submit it to the Ohio Department of Transportation?
The plan is yes, both infrastructure and non-infrastructure are included in the plan. When you apply for funds, you can apply for non-infrastructure or for infrastructure or for both. And there are some restrictions on who can apply for what.
Okay.
School districts can apply for non-infrastructure funding. The jurisdictions in charge of the roadways have to apply for the infrastructure changes.
Correct.
Because that's who does the changes. So.
And the max for the infrastructure is 15,000, did you say?
I believe it is 15,000. It's based on the number of schools that you have to serve.
I got you.
Yeah, so.
And the deadline to have this actually to the Ohio Department of Transportation is December what?
To have the plan to ODOT for their review.
Correct.
Is the end of the month. So yeah, the last week in December would be ideal.
Okay.
We're shooting for before Christmas, just so that ODOT has a chance to review it before that next grant round opens on January 6th. And that round will be open until March 6th. So you've got a couple months. If there's a couple of weeks of the plan is not approved, you should still be fine.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I want to thank you first for coming out and for taking the time to come up with the safe routes to school, because of course we all want the students to be safe getting to school. So this plan is for both of the new buildings, the elementary school as well as the middle school, high school, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But if I'm understanding correct, I guess for us the challenge is going to be the fact that our elementary school is going to be built next year, but the funding won't be available till sometime after that, right?
Well, right. If you're applying, you can do education programs. You can use non-infrastructure funding pretty much within the time, once you're awarded, you just go through the contract process to, you know, set that up with ODOT. That is almost immediate, and you're expected to use that within 18 months. Infrastructure projects take longer because they are set in the procedurals at the state level because this is federal funding. So it's got to follow the rules of the state and federal guidelines when it comes to transportation projects. So they're put on a schedule. Awards that are awarded in the this 2020 round will likely be awarded in 2 to 4 years. Like, you will receive funding within 2 to 4 years.
So does your plan have recommendations on what we can do or should do with the non-infrastructure funding?
All the education, encouragement, and enforcement actions that are in the plan are eligible for funding. And that was something the team worked on to identify what would be most beneficial to the students of this community.
And what did you say that was called, the educational?
It's the education actions, encouragement,
Oh, okay.
enforcement, yeah, and they are all in a section in the plan towards the back, right before the infrastructure.
So it sounds like this is a phased approach.
Yes, in some ways it is. Now, communities can take the initiative and start implementing things right away, even if it's policy change. It can be encouraging different types of maintenance issues related to transportation. For example, cities can change their striping policies with regards to crosswalks so that they are more visible, or using more high visibility paint, for example. Education, you know, programs can go on at any time and really grow and start for any reason. So Safe Routes money is considered somewhat seed money, so they expect to see, you know, like some sustainability built in after a few years, but you can apply on an annual basis.
Okay. So this is something we may need to speak with in partnership with the city.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same
So-
thing.
If there's no more questions,
Well, you know what, I'm trying to vision some of this in my mind, and my biggest concern, and you can help me out, is we cannot use any of this fund for, I'm looking at Northfield. Northfield always been my biggest concern for children. So I'm trying to think, is there any way possible that we could have a pathway
Oh,
across Northfield?
yeah, like
Is
a
that
bridge?
something that we can do under this program? Because we're talking about safety of children and,
You know, all options can be on the table.
Okay.
Whether they're feasible from an engineering standpoint and also a financial standpoint, those are the considerations that need to be made when you start getting into that deeper planning phase where you're
Okay.
actually doing a planning study. These are recommendations that
Okay.
we would hope communities could follow. And frankly, we looked at more of the universal and low-cost type
Okay.
of, and then some higher level cross things like RFBs, for example, where where a student would push a button and a light would go off in order to alert traffic that there's someone crossing. Those are really common now. They're becoming more and more common in communities, and drivers recognize them and, you know, comply accordingly.
So that's similar to what I see downtown then, when you get ready to cross, what is that, St. Clair? Over by the Weston. They've got buttons that you can push, and like you
And
said,
then the lights go off.
Yeah,
the
now,
yeah.
but a lot of times people don't stop. I have to do one of
You
these
have to do
numbers
a
saying,
couple
yes,
of them,
stop.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's, you know, again, it's an educational thing as well for drivers, and there's even components of this plan that can encourage driver education through parental education, for example, at pick-up and drop-off during the school year, and then signage and things of that nature along your roadways that will help create safer conditions for everyone, really.
Just one more quick question. So just how soon should we be prepared to start implementing something once the money comes available?
Well, that would probably depend on what you're applying for.
Okay.
I think Tasha's gonna put a group together in January to discuss a non-infrastructure application, and I'm happy to come back out and
So we
assist you
already
with that.
have programs in place that we would like to implement, such as a bike tech program at a middle school, and also education at the elementary level as well. So we do have some ideas.
Okay, so you said they're things that we're working on and not necessarily things that we've already implemented? No, we're not. Gotcha, okay, all right. All right,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tasha.
Welcome, thank you.
Alrighty, we are at item 1.7, superintendent updates.
All right. Sorry, good evening.
Evening.
Good evening, public, staff, and community and public. It's a great honor and privilege to be here today. I have a brief report. I'll go over some key important items to inform the community and the board of some important items that we are undertaking at this time. First, I want to give a facilities update. Currently, our phase one, which is our new elementary school, our budget is we're on time and on budget. So that's very important that we're on time and on budget. The anticipated date of delivery from Sean and his group, Infinity, is November 1st, 2020. So the delivery date is when we get full possession of the building. There will be some opportunities for us to get into the building this summer, possibly in certain areas, but full delivery will be on November 1st. The opening date of when we'll be able to get in there is January of 2021. So January 2021, we will be transitioning all students into that building. Phase two, the middle school and high school, the total budget is $68 million. The architect, so we haven't announced who the architect is, but the architect is Moody and Nolan. Moody and Nolan is an African-American firm out of Columbus. So they are our architects for this new building. Our construction manager at risk is the same one we had before, which is Infinity Construction. We're very pleased with the work they did on our first project, and they'll be returning with us. The anticipated start date of the new building is July 6th. We found that out today. So today, they will, on July 6th, we will have to give up the football field, and then they will start the process of preparing the football field for demolition and to build the pad to start the new school. So the city will be able to do their fireworks this year at the stadium. So that was one of the concerns of the city. So we want to make sure that they'll be able to do fireworks. The anticipated delivery date of the new high school is July 22. So July of 2022, we will take possession of the high school. So we are, we hope to have some type of schematic design, I would say by May. It would be a sketch on how this building would look by May. So May meeting, we hope to come in here and be able to show you how the building will look moving forward. So this is a great process, a very exciting time. If you go past the pre-K to 5, you see that the brick is up on the gym area. They're getting done with the gym area. We took a tour on Wednesday, I believe, or Tuesday. It was Monday. Time is going fast. Well, it was on Monday, and it's remarkable how fast things are going up. Second floor is in some areas, and they're closing things up. So we're very excited about the new building and where we're going. So important conversations for the board in 2020. First one is the disposal or use of Eastwood, Westwood, and John Dewey. Something paramount that we have to come up with some decisions very soon. There are some considerations that the board should consider in relation to our increased enrollment and other factors in determining what the board decides to do with these 3 properties. And also the Board of Education. The board facility is outdated. It is not a good place for our staff to be in, and we have to make a decision about the Board of Education and what happens to that. So I know the board has charged us with coming up with options, and we have came with options, and that's talking to the city about an opportunity there, and also looking at our own internal buildings for opportunities. So those are things that in the near future, and I pray very near future, that we start to make these decisions so that we can move forward in preparation. The money is allocated for the demolition of R3, but there are also considerations that we need to take to determine, do we demo R3 or do we keep one, or so forth. Air Choice. So this is important. I'm gonna go a brief overview on Air Choice, but Air Choice is a program that the state implemented about 2005, in which they took public money and gave it to private schools. So our district has always been part of Air Choice. So we've always, since Air Choice started, we've had students who utilized Air Choice and went to private schools. It's been as high as $300,000 in the past or higher. So there was recently a new law passed, and this new law went from like 40 districts to like over 400 districts that are affected by Air Choice. It was a big article in the newspaper this weekend. But one of the things I do want to announce to our district, to our community, is that our pre-K, our kindergarten through 5th grade, is out of Air Choice. So let's give our teachers and staff a round of applause, and principal, because the work they've done has took our schools off the list. So we're one of the exceptions to the rule, because now our school is not open to Air Choice in our elementary schools. So as I talked earlier about implications for enrollment, and as the board considers what to do with our buildings, we have to start to think about that, because that was an automatic siphon off of students. And I think realtors were selling that too, that, hey, you can get Air Choice if you move in the city, you can get a private school voucher. And in essence, it's a 12-year scholarship. So once you're in it, you keep it. So moving forward, any student that gets Air Choice or has Air Choice now will keep it. So we will still have to deal with it, but there will be no new applications for our kindergarten to 5th grade. So that's one of the major considerations that the board has to consider, but it's a great accomplishment because we're one of the few districts who came off the list. And in addition to that, we're one of the only districts who seen the money reduced. So we have less students using it than others. So if you look at Shaker or Cleveland Heights and even Solon, they have more students using it. They went from low numbers. I think Parma went from 40 to 139 in 1 year, but we actually have seen the opposite effect. So again, that's kudos to the district and the work that's being done. 3rd grade reading, the Westwood staff, if you can stand, please. We got to get Westwood around. We got 2 great teachers, Ms. Boynton and Ms. Womack, both 3rd grade teachers, and the principal, if you can stand up. We got to give accolades while you can, give them a round of applause. This is very important, because if you look at this graph, you'll see that we went from 5% our first year to 43% in mid-year testing. So this is a testimony to our 2nd grade teachers and our 3rd grade teachers, really to John Dewey starting in kindergarten all the way to all the way to 3rd grade, of the great work that's being done. So I would like to just publicly acknowledge that. And also the red line is the state average. So we always talked about closing the achievement gap. And you see that achievement gap was humongous in 2015. And if you look now, it's only 1% difference between us and the state. So that's great work, and you can see that the work that's being done here is very admirable, and it's not being duplicated in other places with students that look like our students. So again, let's give Westwood a round of applause for that great work. And John Dewey and Ms. Thompson, they are doing some outstanding work. So. And on Monday, we received notice that we received 3 awards. The district received the Momentum Award. The Momentum Award is awarded to districts who get an A in value added. So our district received the A in value added. And also Eastwood, so let's give any Eastwood staff and Ms. Bishop a round of applause for that. And then we'd also like to recognize John Dewey again for their A, one of 78 district schools in the state of Ohio to receive an A. And if you look at the list, we are the only district that look like our district that's on the list. So again, the work that's being done here, it's not being duplicated in a lot of places.
Exactly.
District awards, also, Hanford Dixon gave, shout out to Eastwood, I hope it play. Let me see, no, it won't play, but he gave a little short, congratulations to Eastwood. So we wanted to play it, it won't play, but, I think it's on Facebook. It's on our Facebook page. It's on Facebook. Oh, it's
Go
working.
Eastwood Tigers. Congratulations. Roof, roof. Top dog. Head protects it.
Tomorrow we have our annual STEAM fair. I'd like to acknowledge the organizer, Ms. Ruth Ray. She's not here. She's probably setting up, but it'll be an exciting day for all the students in the district. It'll be held during the school day tomorrow. So we'll have all the students in the district here at the high school. So it looks to be an exciting event.
It starts at what time?
It starts at 9 o'clock. Also, I would like to acknowledge Brandon Rush. Brandon Rush is a player from our basketball team last year. He plays for Farley Dickerson. Mr. Swift went to the game this weekend. And he's playing D1, so he played against Kentucky, which is like the 6th ranked team. So I know Mr. Mayor watched the game. I watched the game. We talked about it at the girls' game this week. But yeah, it's just a great thing to see one of our students on national TV playing, who was just in here last year. He signed his letter of intent here last year. So we want to acknowledge any alumni that we see doing great things. We will bring it to the community to share with our students. And this is another important first for us. We have a student, Mr. Cameron Ray, who will be graduating with his associate's degree next Tuesday. Wow. Cameron is only a junior. So we want to acknowledge that because I know we've had students graduate before with their associates, but I don't think a junior at this early. But this is a tribute to the early college program and the work that's being done there. It's causing us to get future, and you'll see a MOU with Cleveland State in here because we gotta get past Tri-C now. We gotta go to a 4-year university to offer these young people opportunities. So Cameron is the first. We have 4 more that's slated to go in the spring, but they're seniors. But we got 4 more in the spring that will have their associates before they graduate. So 2 of them basketball players, so tribute to the coach. We got scholar athletes that's playing sports. But we have 7th graders now taking college courses. So our goal is to continue this process so that we can have multitudes of students getting associate's degrees. Maybe we could look up and get a bachelor's degree before they get a high school diploma. That's an admirable goal, but we're going to try.
We're going to try.
We're going to try. We met with Tri-C today, shoring up the early college program. And one of the visions that we want to have is that I looked at Willie B. East, I believe, and they have a nursing program where students get their nursing license before they graduate from high school. We approached Tri-C like 4 years ago and asked them, could we do it? And they had hesitation because they didn't think our kids were ready. Initially, they didn't think they were ready. So over these 4 years, we better preparing our students. So hopefully we can get a student through here to be a nurse before they graduate. That's our goal, or something in the medical field before they graduate. So that's the vision. We want to keep our best and brightest here. They're getting a free education, a free college education. And I don't know how much better you can get if, in high school to get a free associate's degree and possibly a bachelor's degree. So that concludes my report. Any questions at this time?
I do have one. So, I heard you make a comment about how we've got some decisions to make as a board. How soon do you think we need to start having those discussions?
Well,
Some of them we've been having, but we.
so I think the process of liquidating buildings need to start soon. I would say by the spring. Because there's resolutions that have to be passed to determine if we're going to demolish the building or we're going to keep the building. There's opportunities to market different buildings. And all those things have to happen fast. I don't want to say fast, but in a timely fashion. The worst thing that can happen, we have 3 empty buildings, and we have to maintain, board up, and all those issues that happen with Westwood and Randallwood. So it's my hope that we can have the decisions made when we move in January. We can immediately start whatever that process is going to be. Is it to demolish? Is it to transfer ownership? Is it to update? Whatever the board decision is, that we can immediately start instead of going through a period of a year or 2 with empty buildings that we have to maintain, keep the heat on, have people go over, expending resources, unnecessary resources. So, and it's only a year away. Right now, we're a year away from making that decision. So I think those decisions have to happen relatively fast. I mean, if we want to market the buildings, you got to get appraisals on them. You got to go through all those different processes, which could be 2-3 months at a time. So those decisions, I would say, happen within the next 4 to 5 months.
So is it something, so I'm trying to understand how this is gonna work. So you talked about real estate, things like that. So is it something that you're gonna bring to us as a recommendation, or do we need to have discussions? I guess this is for the board in
Right.
general, on what that looks like and how we get there.
Right, so we can, I definitely have recommendations, but I think that the board definitely should offer their recommendations. So I think it should be a conversation of all the possibilities that can exist. Because there might be some that my recommendation might not encompass. But that conversation has to happen because there's some real serious deadlines. When I say deadlines, it's money, or when I think about it, it's just like you own a house that's empty. When it's empty, things break, and it costs you more to fix it. So, in learning from Westwood and learning from Randallwood, we have to be able to move quickly on those buildings. So, I think maybe a retreat or something to talk about it, maybe with a facilitator to also facilitate the conversation, and from there, start to make the decisions to move forward.
I appreciate you saying that, and that's kind of what I was thinking, was either a retreat or we dedicate a work session to it. But I think, Madam Chair, it gives us an opportunity to have some real good dialogue about what our next steps are gonna be.
I think before we can do anything, we have to have dialogue as a board. That's not a decision that can be made in the dark. It can't be made by one person.
Right.
So as I shared earlier, we function as a board, we have to make a decision as a board.
So I'm in agreement that a retreat or a work session, something like that, would be a great opportunity for us to do that.
Also, Madam Chair, just quickly, with the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission, we've been in these meetings, and Dr. Austin, Superintendent Jolly, we're somewhat mandated as a board on some of our choices. I mean, we have the choices, but if we keep the buildings, we're going to have to pay for the building.
Right.
So, you know, we got to look at it with our CEO, if it's financially responsible to keep some of these buildings.
Correct.
So that's a choice as a board we'll make.
Right.
But that's part of Ohio Facilities Construction that mandates us
They
to.
mandated that when we went
Right.
into the buildings initially.
That's correct.
Right, and I think enrollment is going to dictate some of the decisions. I mean,
I'm sorry, you said what?
enrollment
Enrollment.
will
Oh, most
dictate
definitely. Yeah,
some decisions.
yeah.
Because one of the concern was right now is the kindergarten.
Right.
So we have to make sure that we have enough space to accommodate all of our students, so.
Right. We do have concerns about the new building being big enough for all our students. So that's the number one concern, which would come down to this decision on what to do with the buildings and what building to keep and what building not to keep, who goes into the building, who doesn't go in the building, so forth.
And based on a lot of the projections that you came up with, we are already over capacity based on the projections.
We are.
I mean, even though we know it's a rough projection.
Right.
but, you know, and that includes the 40, 50 some odd students that are still sitting in charter schools, and we know that there's a portion of those that we will.
And you got to
get
think,
back.
when the school open, I mean, people like new things. So you can get new people to come just off it being the school.
21.
So we have to prepare for that. In this decision to determine what happens to our 3 buildings, which one is the best to keep and why. And of course, I do have recommendations on which one I believe we should keep. But again, I think we should have that conversation soon.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent.
If no further questions, Dr. Rock, you are up for your treasurer's update.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So tonight I wanted to focus on the financial success for the school district in regards to our master facilities plan. So now, we are at the completion of, we are fully funded for the whole master facilities plan. Phase 1 and Phase 2, we have the financing. So the financing is here. In other words, the money's here.
Okay, fantastic.
And this is after a recent sales of $22 million of certificates of participation and $39 million of bonds. And last December, we did $8.8 million for Phase 2 in December of 2018. And Phase 1 is fully funded. The construction's in progress. We've already had an update on that. And that's to be completed in November, December. I think it's still within the timeline of what Mr. Jolly said, and then we would move in January with the students. Before I go to the next slide, I want to draw the board's attention to 2 sheets that I handed out. One that it says Fifth Third Bank on the bottom. It should be in the back. And then there's another one that says UBS on the top left corner. These are the bonds. So I wanted you to get a feel for how the bond process works. So if you look at the one for Fifth Third Bank, and you notice on that one, these were too large for me to put up into a slide, so. But anyways, on the left-hand side, you could see the years from 2020 all the way down to 2049. So each one of those rows are bonds, okay? Well, actually, they're groups of bonds. Then when you look at the amount, the bonds are sold in $5,000 increments. So like on the first one, there's $445,000 of bonds. And then if you go down to the very bottom, in 2049, there's $6,335,000. So they're sold in $5,000 increments, and each row is sold at a different interest rate because it's based on the interest market and how investors want to buy. So in other words, if they want to get that bond that's going to go all the way out to 2049, we have to make it attractive to them. So the coupon rate is 3.25%. Just like regular investing anywhere. If you're going to get a higher interest rate, you have to lock up your money for a longer period of time. But there's investors out there that like that because they know that they have that revenue stream now for the next X amount of years. So that's why I wanted to show this to you. So it wasn't like when we sell the bonds, it's just one bond for the same amount, and there's just millions of them sold. And then what we landed on this, on the 22 million, if you turn it over to just on the back page of it, we landed at 3.23% interest financing, which is phenomenal for us. I mean, imagine if you can get your home mortgage at that amount. Okay, so then the other group is the UBS handout. So if we look at the UBS handout, this is our $39 million of bonds. I circled down at the bottom, the interest rate that we ended up with that is 2.479, which again is a great interest rate for us. I circled it down here at the bottom. So again, on that one, it's the same thing. It's a list of all of the rows of the bonds. And now, if you notice, though, in those early years, they're small amounts, okay? And this is the reason I wanted to show this to us tonight, because now everything's come together and we're done with the financing. But there was a lot of work behind this, and one of the biggest uphill battle was passing our bond and PI levy. And remember, we passed that at a millage rate, at a double-digit millage rate of almost 13 mils. But remember, it's only going to cost the taxpayer 7 mil increase. That's that model. Here's how it's in action now. So if you see those early years, we only have to sell $11,000 of bonds in year 1. The next year's $25,000. You notice the first 4 years, the amounts are substantially low. That's because we're factoring in and financing and leveraging the finance in order to pay off the old bond. So that's how that's at work. So I figured this would be a great time, since everything's completed now, I can hand out an example to you, and you can see it at work, all of our hard work that we put in. So that's how the bonds are actually sold. So it's like, again, there's a a group of bonds in every year, and there's different amounts. And then at the end, all of the funds come in from the investors. So that leads me into the next phase. The bonds and certificates of participation are purchased by investors. So the investors see all of those investment opportunities, and they buy them, okay? So when the investors buy the bonds, they give the money to the bank, the underwriter bank for us, and then the banks deposit the money into our school district bank account. So for us, it's UBS and Fifth Third we utilized. Then this is just another further, the next step then is the district utilizes the funds. The investors buy the bonds, we have the money deposited in our bank accounts. So we collect the money. As the building is completed, the funds are exhausted. So now the district uses those funds during the construction process, and then the funds are exhausted. In other words, the funds go down to zero but we have a new building at the end. And then you can see the dollars get a little smaller. It goes from big ones to small ones. I guess that's being creative. For me, this is a lot of graphics for my presentations. And then here's the end. So at the end, all the money is used up. The new campus is completed. And then the last step is the district makes the annual finance payments similar to a mortgage, like as if you bought a house or you had a house built. So then we make the payments for X amount of years going into the future. And the way that we make those payments is with the bond and PI levy that we passed. The tax dollars that come in every year makes that payment. So this way, we were able to see the whole process. And then just for some reason, oh, here it is. On the horizon, we have the organizational meeting coming up that we're going to talk about more in the meeting. At that meeting, we set a lot of the financial obligations and financial authorizations of the superintendent. And then most importantly, the tax budget's established in January. And then that completes my section.
Thank you, Dr. Rock. Board, are there any questions?
None for me, Madam Chair.
All right. Thank you for the update. That is extremely interesting.
Thank you.
We are now at section 2, and we will move into the consent portion of our agenda. I need a motion on the floor, for items 2.1 through 2.3 for the treasurer's report and financial recommendations. And as a reminder, 2.3, we changed resolution to amendment.
Also, I think 2.2 should be changed from charge order to change order.
Okay.
Yes.
So, first someone puts the motion on the floor, let it be noted that item 2 is changing from charge orders to change orders. Thank you so much, Mr. Jolly, for that catch. So we're going to need, by consent agenda, a vote on 2.1, cash reconciliation, 2.2, change orders, and 2.3, amendment.
Madam Chair, I move the consent treasurer's report and financial recommendations, 2.1, cash reconciliation, 2.2, change orders, and 2.3, an amendment.
Thank you. May I have a second?
A second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Board, is there any discussion? If none, Dr. Rock, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 4-0. Next on our agenda, we have item 3. It's a vote by consent agenda, superintendent's recommendation and presentation for board action certified staff. And this is items 3.1 through 3.4.
Madam Chair, I move the consent superintendent recommendations and presentations for board action certified staff. We're looking for items 3.1 through 3.4.
May I have a second, please?
I second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Board, is there any discussion?
For 3.2, the date, should that be May 2020?
It should be May 2020, correct?
All right, we need to amend that then. Thank you for that catch, Ms. Barbara. We need to pull that motion off the floor. We need to correct the motion. And item 3.2, excuse me, will read May 21st, 2020. So now we need a new motion on the floor for items 3.1 through 3.4 with the change in item 3.2 to read May 21st, 2020 versus May 21st, 2019.
Madam Chair, I move the consent superintendent recommendation and presentation for board action certified staff. We're looking for approval for the items 3.1 through 3.4 with the change of 3.2 stating May 20th, 2020.
May 21st.
May 21st, 2020.
May I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on that? If none, Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 4-0. We move now to item 4. We need a motion on the floor for consent voting on superintendent's recommendations and presentations for board action classified staff. And this would be for items 4.1 through 4.7.
Madam Chair, I move the consent superintendent's recommendation and presentation for board action classified staff. Looking for items 4.1 through 4.7.
May I have a second?
I second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Board, is there any discussion? None, Dr. Rock?
May I have, Mr. Jolly, we still need bus drivers?
Yes, we do. We short bus drivers, yes, ma'am.
How many?
I believe we're like two bus drivers short.
Oh, okay.
It's a shortage all over Northeast Ohio now, so everybody's short. But yeah, we still short.
Are there any further questions? If none, Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell.
Yes. Motion passes 4-0. Next on our agenda is item 5. We will be voting by consent agenda, superintendent's recommendation and presentation for personnel and programs. And this will be items 5.1 through 5.11.
Madam Chair, I move the consent superintendent recommendations and presentation for personnel and programs. Looking for items 5.1 through 5.11.
May I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded. Board, are there any questions?
I did want to speak on 5.7.
Okay.
The MOU between Tri-C on Warrensville City and the school district. This is a new initiative we're undertaking for our parents and people who live in the community who have not haven't finished high school or received a high school diploma. So this is like workforce study, and not workforce, but it's like a workforce program where we're trying to get people GEDs, we're trying to get them trained for jobs. So the school district's role in that is that we're gonna provide space for training here at the high school.
Thank you, Mr. Jolly.
Madam Chair, I have a question for Superintendent Jolly. 5.8 program Where the Heart Is. Is this program opposite of Tri-C?
No, yeah, so this program is an after-school, we're starting a culinary club.
Right.
For middle and high school. So what happened, the state gave us $394,000 for health and wellness.
Okay.
So we want to use the money to, first 3 goals to address mental illness, or mental health, not mental illness, but healthy living. So this is part of our efforts to help our students with healthy living. So we're doing 6th to 12th grade, a culinary club. So they'll meet 4 times a month, and they'll cook different meals and so forth.
I love it. Thank you.
Did you just want to go ahead and talk through 5.9 and 5.10 as well?
Okay, so 5.9 is at the middle school, we want to pilot a hip-hop Zumba for our gym classes. So we had a committee with guidance counselors and a whole bunch of group of people to try to figure out how we could spend this money and do some things that's out the box. So hip-hop Zumba, again, healthy living. We're going to pilot it at the middle school. If it works well there, we'll expand it. And then also we're going to do Zumba, not Zumba, but yoga K-12. So we're partnering with 2 different entities for yoga, the Youth Yoga and ZenWorks, to train our teachers, and then it will transcend down to our students. So again, I'm trying out-the-box ways of reaching our students. So some of them are K-12, the yoga is K-12. We want to pilot in different areas, different things, and then we will be able to use it district-wide once we see it's effective or not.
So you said 510 is gonna start with the teachers?
510, yeah, we're training teachers and students
Oh,
in
wonderful.
Zumba. So January 6th will be the first training for for yoga.
Is it gonna be at the high school?
Um,
At the middle?
so the yoga is going to be K-12.
Where is it gonna be held at?
The meeting, I'm not sure yet. I'll get that information.
Sound like good programs. If there's no further questions, thank you, Mr. Jolly, for providing the additional insight. Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 4-0. We are at item 6.1. We need a motion on the floor for Vice President Ray Freeman to attend the NSBA Cube Steering Committee meeting at the Equity Symposium in February of 2020. This is an annual conference that he typically goes to in Washington, D.C. So may I have a motion on the floor for us to vote on this one?
Want to do it separate or?
Yeah, this time.
Want to do it separate? Okay. Madam Chair, I move the school board conferences and conventions and workshops for 6.1 NSBA conference.
I second that.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any additional comments, questions, thoughts?
I'd like to make a comment, Madam Chair. The Equity Symposium started 3 years ago. It's a great conference that we have public school board leaders across the country come to Washington, D.C. We have great speakers. It's a one-day seminar, but you get a chance to understand equity and the equity policies that you have in your respective districts. So it's a great time. I'm glad to represent this school district, and I'm looking forward to it. So it's an obligation, but I look forward to it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Freeman. There's no further questions or comments. Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 4-0. The reason I did 6.1 and 6.2 separately is 6.2 is the Ohio Education Policy Institute annual meeting. After continued conversations with the Ohio Education Policy Institute, just before the meeting today, I learned that this, even though the emails were sent to board members, the focus for these particular sessions is for superintendents and treasurers.
Oh, wow.
And I know, so I asked, because all their communications said
Right, it was open to board members.
school board members.
Correct.
This is the first time we ever received that. correct?
Right, and that's what I told her.
Is that the
We
one
never
came from Will
received
Schwartz?
this.
It came from Will. I called Will directly.
Okay.
He said, yeah, anybody could come.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
so with that being said, Mr. Jolly or Dr. Rock, it's December 18th, so between the two of you, if
I know
you
you're
want
tied
to
up.
make the
I'll go.
choice.
Oh,
Okay.
And another option, Madam Chair, which I know you guys know, is that we can also send a proxy. if
Well,
for some
when I
reason-
spoke with Barb Shaner, she said this isn't a learning, this is just opportunity to share with each district, what this, yeah, it's an information session.
About the different updates and things
So
like
with
that.
Dr. Rock being there, we won't need a proxy. He will in effect be our proxy. So.
Right,
we're good.
I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so Dr. Rock, thank you so much for volunteering to go. All righty, and next on our agenda, I believe, is 6.3, and this is the board's time to do updates on the conferences that we've attended since September, which is CUBE, Capital Conference in Columbus, the Council of Greater City Schools, and NAPSI. Since there are so many conferences that have been attended, I've asked each board member to either, if we've taken a learning track, to do a comprehensive overview of what you attended, and if you haven't done a comprehensive focus on the learning track, to just pick one of the sessions that you attended at the conferences that you attended and share that back out with the board. So, Ms. Barber, would you like to go first?
I can.
Okay, thank you.
I went to the Capitol Conference in Columbus, Veterans Day weekend. And I actually attended, I'm going to say about 5. One was inform, engage, and empower your community. One was effective community conversation. One was the facility impact on student achievement. And another one that I went to was things to avoid to be a productive board member. That kind of stood out in my mind, and I enjoyed it because in the past we have had problems being a good board member, being productive. So they said things to avoid, and set goals for yourself. And one of the things they said, setting goals, and mean what you say. Whatever goals you set for yourself, do it. Show the community that we are all in this together. Another one that stood out was stop focus on what is wrong and focus on all the good things that we are doing in the community.
Exactly.
How do we get the community engaged in what we are trying to accomplish? I believe, and as I said there, I think in observing other districts, I think Warrensville is one of the most fortunate one because of the fact that we have the community, we have the mayor, we have the seniors, we have a whole group of people that are supporting us. So it's up to us as board members to be leaders, to be the ambassador, to show the community what we can do as a group. We are doing it. And I told them, I said, we actually are doing it. Our grades show us, show them, to the point that everybody wants to know, what is Warrensville doing? First of all, we have a fantastic, and I said that in the conference, Mr. Jolly. I said, first of all, we have a fantastic leader. We have Mr. Jolly. We have someone that is totally invested in our school. We have someone that is totally invested in the community. He gets out there. And that's what we as board members have to do. We have to get out there. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I've been to everything because I haven't. But my goal and my focus for next year is that I'm going to be as active and as involved as I possibly can. We cannot do this alone, but we have to, as our president said, we are one body. When you put down one, you put it down all of us. So my goal, as I said it in Columbus, is that we are going to show the whole state of Ohio that Warrensville is going to be the place that everybody wants to be. So that's why I asked about accommodation for our schools, because there are going to be a lot of people that want to come in here because we are focused on doing great things. And again, I attend the senior club member, and it's amazing to me how seniors are still so interested in what our young people are doing. And I encourage my board members, as being a member of the seniors, to come, just listen to our seniors. And like I said, I give report, but it is so good when I see Mr. Jolly shows up. It is refreshing, because I'm not doing this by myself. We all has to focus on one goal, one vision. We are all one team. Because like I said, when one shine, we all shine. And Mayor Sellers, I'm gonna have to give him his prop. A lot of the people say they don't have support of their mayors. And I actually felt good in that workshop, because I could say that our mayor is 100% behind our schools, and he's for the success of our schools. So there was 5 things to avoid. My minute is up, so I'm going to stop here. But guys, it was one program that I really would like to implement this summer, and it's called 1 Million Words. And what it does is we're gonna invite the entire community inside of a school, and we all going to read. We're gonna all read. Bring your favorite book, or your newspaper, or your sports magazine. I don't care what you bring, just bring something to read. And that's why we're gonna get 1 million words in a school. So I have already asked her to assist me in that, but I'm not gonna start trying to implement and get it all together until March, okay? Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Ms. Barbara. I will keep mine short and sweet. I only made it to CUBE. I was not able to go to Capitol Conference this year. My focus at CUBE this year was looking at creating a trauma-informed environment for students and our educators. Based on what I learned, I was very happy to see that Mr. Jolly and his team have done built quite a bit of the infrastructure to support this environment. We already have it in place. I had already been reading a book by Dr. Monique Morris called Push Out. I actually had to stop reading it because it was making me angry. The book studies the disenfranchisement of young black girls from elementary school, and it shows how the path is built from the school system to the penal system. Dr. Morris spoke at one of our breakfast sessions. It was very enlightening, and she actually has a movie, documentary, that she's done, and it is powerful. If you get a chance to read the book, you have to read it. While that particular book focused on behaviors, it even took a deeper look at how our girls look, because we know this is a way of treating children who act out, and believe it or not, who look different. It is pervasive throughout the educational system. We've grown up being used to the young black boys, having it hit them hard. But today, it's hitting the girls just as hard, if not harder. We're sassy, we're this, we're that, we're ratchet. You got a smart mouth, you got a label for that. So what happens is those little girls get labeled in elementary school, and it stays with them all the way through. They wind up missing most of high school because they wind up in juvie. But I also took a lot of classes that talked about equity. We meaning some of the board members, we've taken a lot of equity courses thinking that it was socioeconomic, it was the disparity between black and white, all of the obvious equity things. But when we were looking at this, I thought, we could do an equity policy that could vamp up our suspension policy. How do we determine what are some of the parameters to put around suspensions? How do we put steps in place? So that's one of the things that I wanted to share with you, Mr. Jolly. And unfortunately, they put all of our decks in that app, and I can't get them to print. So I'm going to see if I can get my link to you. So one of that was the one that really hit me close to home, because we can stop, the 5 of us with Mr. Jolly, all of you, we can stop this systematic, early imprisonment of our young black youth by stopping how people view them, how they label them, how they treat them, how they talk to them, because of the way they talk, because of the way they look, because of the way they dress, because of the way the little girls wear their hair, or how they may sashay down the hallway. We have to stop that, because that's the only way we're gonna save our kids, make sure they're getting educated, and get them off to either college or some type of trade school. So that was mine. It would be great if we as a board could work with you to look at the suspension policy and how we can take a more equitable approach at trying to not stop the suspension, but how do we put stop gaps in place before we have to move to suspension? So we need you and your expertise for that. Thank you. You ready, Ray?
I'm ready. The actual National School Board Association Council Urban Boards of Education, CUBE, which everybody know that I'm a member of, but it was a pleasure being there in Miami. I remember Ms. Gator, when she was president, took me to my first CUBE, and I got a liking in Arizona, Mimi, if you remember when we went down there. And I met a lot of people, and from that engagement in Arizona, it made me want to be a member. I kept seeing these members, and what does it mean? So to have a little small district like Warrensville represented on the national stage means a lot to me. And then to have all of my board members come, and then our superintendent and his staff present was a plus. Because I'm always telling my 14 other members about Warrensville and about Superintendent Jolly. Now they had a chance to see him and his team work, and him and Mrs. Hunt and Ms. Morez and Dr. Caver put together a great presentation about data and how data took this F district into a F, almost a B district, and how now we're the talk of the state and talk on the national level. So when I walk into DC in February, I can walk very proudly with my head held high because I know what we bring. This CUBE event, my 5th one, I had to work. They worked me. I thought I was an OG on the CUBE. I was like one of the 4 oldest ones. I thought I ain't had to do nothing. But they worked me. They had me facilitate 3 different programs or sessions a day. So that was a lot. But I was very pleased that of our session. I mean, that was the talk of CUBE down in Miami. Superintendent Jolly, you did a great job. Your staff, Ms. Morez. All of the PowerPoints that you put together, it hit home to a lot of urban districts because they don't know nothing about data assessment. They don't know how you can go in a classroom and see what an educator is doing on a day-to-day basis. They don't monitor like Principal Vaughn and Principal Thompson and Principal Bishop do on a daily basis. So that would make me proud about that. But the one I got from CUBE was ours. I mean, I'm biased, but it was ours. So that's what I took from it. It'll be in Houston next year. I hope all the board members want to go to Houston. I don't know if I'll be a member of that organization, but I'll decide here in January if I want to continue to do another 3 years with them. The Ohio School Board Association, it was good. I had a chance to hang out with my superintendent. Me and Mr. Jolly probably attended about 5 or 4 different events. I mean, he texted me, we went. But the one I got out of it, Superintendent Jolly is part of the mid-sized urban district, was his partner in crime, Dr. Eugene Saunders, the superintendent of Sandusky. He did a presentation called Enrollment Management Strategies. And a lot of them was from Mr. Jolly. I think you gave him some information because I'm sitting there listening, and that's the same thing we're doing here in Warrensville. But it was a great thing that Dr. Saunders and his team out in Sandusky is engaging the public. So they're marketing the public. They do a great job. I know we have Kayla Pallas, and she does a great job marketing on all our social media sites that we didn't have that presence before. But that's the same thing Dr. Saunders is doing, and we're doing it at our district, and that's how people get to know about Warrensville. And, you know, it's a good thing as a team, like Barbara said, we a team. So when I win, they win. When Tracy win, we win. When Mimi win, we all win. And when we all win. So it was a good time to go to these things, get some personal development as an actual board member. It makes us better as a board member. And it's good to go to Ohio School Board Association, and they know all of our names. They know who we are. So I take pride in that, and Superintendent Jolly and your staff did a great job. And that's it, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mimi?
Thank you. So, went to several events for CUBE, but the one that I'm gonna discuss, just because Mr. Jolly and his team don't have to report, is the one that Mr. Jolly and his team did. It was called From Systematic Disruption to Systematic Success. And myself, I was honored that they asked me to introduce the board and the administrative team. Ms. Mitchell said a few words, but honestly, it was because of their dedication, their skill set, their desire to see all of our students excel, that we were even able to stand up there at CUBE and share our success story. And in short, the story was how we went from an F to a C under the leadership of our superintendent, Mr. Jolly. So I think that was the first time that we've been able to present at CUBE, so it's
Exactly.
exciting. I remember when it first started, there was like nobody there. So we were thinking, oh my gosh, nobody's gonna come to our presentation. But because it was kind of in the cut, it just took a while for people to come, and it ended up being a packed house. It was well-received, and people were, anxious to hear how we made such great strides. So I want to congratulate Mr. Jolly and Dr. Caver. I know Kenya was there. I'm doing a great job. It was a great presentation, and we were honored that you guys put in the work that you did. I'm just going to briefly touch on another one with CUBE, only because I hate to say it, but I cannot remember the name of it. Like you, Tracy, I couldn't pull up the
Correct.
I couldn't pull up the app anymore for some reason.
I could get the app, I can't get the deck.
I couldn't get it. But there was this one session that Tracy and I both attended, and it was so powerful. It was about women of color that were serving as presidents of their board, or they have been in a role of presidents. And it was just really good to hear the struggles that they've had, to hear how they've made changes on their board, how they've just been instrumental in moving their board forward. You see people sitting in this position, but you don't know all of the background, the day-to-day things that you have to go through. They talked about people's feelings getting hurt. And I know that I've felt it, I know Tracy has felt it, and it's never intentional, but things happen, and you tend to take it personally. So it was a really good session. I was glad that I went to it. One of the things that came out of the session, just in talking, was about communication. How do they ensure that communication from the community gets to where it needs to get to? They discussed an app that's called Let's Talk. And basically what it is you can, if a community member comes to you and says, hey, I got a question about, something going on at the high school, they can dial into this app, and it will connect them with the right person. And they're supposed to get a response back within 24 to 48 hours, if I'm not mistaken. From a board member perspective, they had business cards that literally said, this is what you need to do if you've got this problem, you want to talk to this person. So I thought that was kind of nice, because we have had struggles in the past where people, community members, staff members, what have you, want to come to us as board members asking for help, and the right thing to do is to follow our policy, which says you have to go through the chain of command. So this card gave them the chain of command. You can still give them the feedback that you needed, but it gave them the chain of command. So I thought it was a great session, and I'd love to get some more information to you, Mr. Jolly, to see if you think that that's something that we might be able to use as a board. So that was CUBE, Ohio School Boards Association. So this particular session for me was all about meetings the first day. I attended the Black Caucus meeting, which I will say that was probably the best Black Caucus meeting that I've attended. When we first started on the board, I'll say it, they were a hot mess. I mean, they argued, they fussed, there was no cohesiveness. but that was not what I saw at at this last Black Caucus meeting. Is her name Bridget? Bridget,
Sandusky?
yes, yes.
Bridget Church.
She was phenomenal. She really got everybody together, and I felt like now I could be a part of Black Caucus, because they seem to be doing things in the right way. So I attended Black Caucus as a delegate or legislative liaison. I had to spend about 2 hours in a legislative delegate assembly. It really is a lot of standing up and sitting down and voting. But it is interesting because what it does is it sets the tone for what the platform with OSBA is going to be. So we have the opportunity to vote on the different changes that they want to make with their legislative platform. The last one was the OSBA ambassador meeting. So I was fortunate enough to be asked to be an ambassador for public education through OSBA. They had an orientation, so Barbara, it kind of hits home to what you were talking about, being an ambassador, because technically we're all ambassadors as board members for public education. But the criteria for me is going to be to actually go around to 5 different places within the community. They've got talking points, a PowerPoint presentation, and to just kind of explain to everybody, share with everybody why public education is your first choice. We want you to choose public education over, you know, charter schools or Catholic schools, anything like that. And that was it, you know, in terms of what I found to be the most, it was just the most engaging. So I really enjoyed it.
Good.
Yeah.
Dr. Rock, by chance, did Member Elba provide you with a synopsis?
Yes, she did.
Is it a concise synopsis?
Yeah, I could paraphrase.
Okay, that would be awesome.
Mrs. Elba, obviously, she can't be here tonight because of her job.
Right.
She attended CUBE, Capitol Conference, Counselor Greater City Schools, and NABC. One of the items that she noted was a partnership with mental health agency where the school district and counsel students in the school. It's a referral-based program similar to the one that she showed when Mr. Jolly and I toured Canton schools with her. Another course that she went to had strategies on improving academics, allowing the students to actually learn the grade and not teach to the test. Another one was on social emotional learning with 5 core competencies: self-awareness, self-management, sound decision-making, relationship skills, social awareness. Another program was the Bully Be Gone program. It's based in Cleveland Heights, and she's awaiting to hear from a partnership with the district. The other one was human trafficking in schools that she saw that was out there. Another one was a mobile storyteller, where a student can project with students, may connect to people through digital storytelling and archiving for grades 9 through 12. Getting rid of poverty, the poverty mindset, and focus on education. A course on bullying and aggression, addressing the problem and not ignoring until it explodes. She also attended something where Eric Gordon discussed protecting public schools and the importance of school districts working with families to ensure education occurs. Ensuring board governance. Boosting family engagement by creating activities parents and students will want to be involved, and working with Black males who have experienced trauma, having all staff on board attend trauma-informed care workshops for certificates. And that was her summary.
Thank you so much. Thank everyone for the time that we've spent over this year in professional development. I think it has been very lucrative. We've been able to bring back some really good ideas to Mr. Jolly and his team. As we all know, some of the programs have to be tweaked to fit a district of our size and our demographic. So we thank you for hearing us out and at least, you know, lending an ear to what we're sharing. We have one small bit of business to complete. under new business is our 2020 board meeting discussion, where we have to select the date of our organizational meeting, and we have to select our pro tempore board president for the beginning of the organizational meeting. So, Dr. Rock, I know I've spoken to everybody individually to kind of get a feel for when we'd like to have that meeting, because we have to have it within the first 15 days of January.
Yes.
We seem to have come to a consensus on Wednesday, it's January 8th. And I just wanted to check in with the board to make sure that date was okay with everyone.
It's a great date for me, Madam Chair. January.
Great date for you.
It's a great date.
Great date.
Yeah. Great day.
Is it good? Okay. Mr. Roberts, our new board member-elect, I know I talked to you first. So January 8th will be our,
Tie your shoes up. You ready to go?
now get your skates on.
Exactly.
Will be our organizational meeting. And just for those who may not know, our organizational meeting is where we set our business agenda for the beginning of the year. And there will be 3 of us who will be sworn in. Ray and I will be re-sworn in. And we welcome our newest member, Earl Darren Roberts. Please stand.
Stand up.
We are so excited to have him join us. And as we invite Earl to join us, I did want to, Miss Elba's not here, but I did want to thank her for her 4 years of serving this community and serving on the board. You know, there's a scripture, Proverbs 27, I believe it is. Iron sharpens iron. As one man sharpens another. And we have some iron sharpening going on, but that's a good thing, because when iron sharpens iron, it makes all of us better people. So we are thankful for the time that we had together as a board. I think we still did amazing work together. The other thing that we need to do is select our president pro temp for board president for the beginning of the organizational meeting. And just so everyone understands, in a normal year where this was not a re-election for me, I probably would have taken on that role. All that person does is open the meeting, and they then will conduct the vote for president. And once the president is voted in, then they hand that meeting over to the president, and the president takes over the meeting. But as of December 31st at midnight, I'm technically no longer a board member until I'm re-sworn back in. So with that, I was chatting with Dr. Rock this evening to make sure I was correct in my thinking, and I did ask him to step in as president pro temp for that organizational meeting. And he'll conduct the beginning of it, and then once the president is voted in, that individual will take over and run the rest of the meeting for the rest of the year. So is everybody
It'll
okay?
be a real short tenure.
8 days.
Yeah, but I will say that technically, Tracy will still be
Yes.
the lead for us during that
Right,
time.
right,
So
right.
that's still who we go to.
Right,
This is just to run the beginning. of the
Exactly.
meeting.
right, it's just the beginning of the
Correct.
meeting.
So we're not leaderless.
Right,
So yes, I'm good.
okay. All right, so I had a few announcements, and then Dr. Rock, I think you should have a couple of items for correspondence,
Or just the one?
or maybe just one. There were a couple of emails that we got.
From that lady about Ms. Boynton.
There was, where did that come from?
You must have
We had
forgot.
congratulatory messaging. You all can think about it. I did want to thank Mrs. Elba for her service. I also wanted to ask my forgiveness for Nichelle Daniels and
Ashley.
Ray.
Oh. I didn't know you
Ashley
know that.
Thomas, first term board members-elect for City of Garfield Heights. And if I'm not mistaken, I think you all are the very first African-Americans to ever be voted in as board members in Garfield Heights as well. Am I right, in my memory? So welcome and thank you for attending our board meeting. You have to let us know when your organizational meeting is, because we do, most board members, you'll get to, as you're part of the school board group traveling to the various conferences, you will soon see Northeast Ohio school board members hang out tough together when we are out of state. So we do go to each other's organizational meetings, so please stay in touch, let us know when, and somebody will be there if they can make it. I know. I also wanted to thank our own, and Miss Boynton, I totally forgot. This is one of our own educators, and we are so proud of you. She is a newly elected school board member. Go ahead. Of Bedford City Schools, and we are just so excited to have you sitting in that seat now. I think you'll bring so much value to that team for a myriad of reasons, but one of the best ones being you are an educator, so I believe strongly that you will see things from both sides of the street. So again, congratulations.
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 Again, want to welcome Earl to the team. We cannot wait to get started on a productive year. And I want to thank you guys sitting up here with me tonight. It's been an interesting year. But I think we've done a lot of work, and we've done some great work. We've allowed, which I think is so important, Mr. Jolly and his team to do the work that they needed. We allowed them to have the autonomy that they needed to do their work. You cannot allow a productive school district, if you are going to micromanage your head. You micromanage the head, that means you're holding them at the throat, you are cutting off the oxygen, they can't breathe, they can't think, they cannot produce. So I'm thankful that we were able to take the noose off and allow Mr. Jolly and his team, all of you, to do the work that you needed to make us successful, because we couldn't be sitting where we are today without you all having the opportunity to breathe and be creative and do the work that you did to get us where we are. So before we leave, I wanted to wish everyone a safe and happy holiday season. We do look forward to you joining us on January 8th at 6:30 in this room for our organizational meeting. And as I shared earlier, Ray, myself, and Earl will be sworn in. And then we typically run a pretty fast, very interesting organizational meeting, and we go home. So that's all I had. Mr. Jolly, did you have anything?
No, ma'am.
Mayor? I just, you kind of gave us our little props. I want to thank you, Tracy, for your leadership over this last year. I know going into this, I've always said I thought you would be a great president, and you brought things to the board, a different way of looking at things. Your leadership has just been invaluable.
Thank you.
You definitely bring a different perspective to the board, and I'm appreciative of your leadership, so I just want to thank you.
Thank you all so much, and thank you, Mimi. Dr. Rock, I don't know if you guys figured out the correspondence. If not, we can share it in January. It was just really nice notes to the district of congratulations. I don't remember what it was for.
Oh, it was from a parent. It was about Westwood. It was Miss Boynton letter. Miss Boynton had a student in her class that moved to Pennsylvania.
That's it.
He moved to Pennsylvania, and the parent wanted to acknowledge the work that the Westwood team did with her son. Her son was prepared. He has a disability too, so he was at grade level or be up above grade level, and she just wanted to thank Westwood and Miss Boynton and her team for the work they did.
I apologize, I remember that email now, but
that's it.
I should gather those.
I
I
think
know
Mimi
between the
brought it
two
up.
of you, somebody will remember.
Hey, Mimi,
So with that, we're not,
pass that.
okay, oh.
Pass this down.
Before we leave, you know we can't get away without giving you guys gifts of appreciation. Dr. Rock, I don't think I got to sign yours.
Yeah, you guys haven't signed it.
Yeah, so we'll sign it real quick, and then we'll
Thank
give
you.
it. But we do want to say Merry Christmas to the both of you.
Oh,
And
appreciate it.
thank you for great work.
Thank you.
Now, I'd like to, we need a motion on the floor to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Madam Chair, I move to adjourn the regular meeting, December 11, 2019.
May I have a second? Thank you. It's been moved and properly second. Dr.
call.
Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes, sir.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Christmas. Okay.